Welcome to the Infra Insider podcast from Infra-Be, a leader in renewable energy and infrastructure executive search. Join us as we dive into insightful conversations with industry leaders, pioneers and visionaries shaping the future of infrastructure and renewable energy. Discover the latest trends and innovations and challenges driving the transition towards a greener and more resilient future. Please remember to like and subscribe. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Eyal Podhorzer, CEO and founder of a business called Ecology. Having recruited extensively for them since 2020, watching their growth, their evolution and their success has been nothing short of remarkable. So who are Ecology? They're an IPP with a very strong presence across Europe. They have an incredibly impressive track record, having secured almost 8 gigawatts of projects across Europe. They've run a successful IPO, listing on the Israeli Stock Exchange. They've run a number of successful debt financing rounds, and also this year connecting the largest project or wind project in Romania. These accomplishments simply demonstrate their strong market presence, their commitment to driving growth across renewable energy. And Ecology has a very, very special place in our hearts at Infra-Be. As we said, we've had the chance to partner with them so closely. And without further ado, have pleasure in welcoming Eyal to the show. Eyal, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Thank you for the opportunity to have this chat with you. I'm used to talk to you only about your successful recruiting processes for Ecology.
We can end the podcast there now, can't we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, happy to be here.
It truly has been for us. I said it's a special place in our heart because I think we started working together during COVID, when we were all working remotely, and it was amazing how you managed to build a business. I mean, sure, you're a great recruiter, but it comes down to the management style, it comes down to your vision, and you had all those things. And I think 3-4 years on, we look back and it has been a huge success. I know that you are very, very, very ambitious, and I'm sure there's so much more to come. But looking back on that journey, it absolutely has been remarkable. I think today what I wanted to talk to you about is, it is very much so how the vision started, where you're going, what new investments have meant, and where you see the market in general. I think one thing that is interesting and it is intriguing, and I think we've probably touched on it before, but not in too much detail, but tell us about how you started Ecology. And what the strategy and the vision was all those years ago.
Right. So yeah, Ecology is an Israeli-based company, but actually since 2010 we haven't been at all investing or operating in the Israeli market. We've been through the first decade. We've been mostly working in the Italian market. So Ecology has been quite a dominant and large developer and investor in the Italian market at the time. We have, I think that the first 10 years we have invested around more than 400 million euros in Italy. The strategy at the beginning was, Italy was predominantly made of small projects, 1 megawatt on average. We were developing, constructing, and in some cases acquiring small projects, aggregating them into larger portfolios, and then extracting values by both economies of scale, by managing the large portfolios and refinancing. For example, in 2016, we've done the largest financing at the time for renewable energy portfolio with Mediocredito Italiano, which is a large Italian bank. At that time, it was considered very large, more than 100 million euros. And it was basically quite complicated transactions of a kind of a leverage buyout. We bought 30 projects, refinanced at the same time, and sold it at the end of 2018, 2 years later, to a large institutional investor, F2I in Italy, for almost 3x the equity. So basically, that was the strategy, basically aggregating portfolios and then selling them on to institutional investors. That strategy changed in 2018-19 when the market became grid parity. Obviously started in Spain, moved to Italy, and Econergy is a very local Italian player with local team on the ground, etc. We've started developing on a large scale in Italy. So we've been one of the early comers in the Italian market in terms of development of projects. And very quickly we have expanded it into other European markets. Today we are present in 6 markets. So we are a player in the Italian market, in Spain, in Romania, in UK, Greece. Who did I forgot? Yeah. And we have obviously a large pipeline, over 10 gigawatts of projects, and yeah, that was us being a developer and kind of a service provider. In 2020, we've closed a strategic transaction with UBS Asset Management at the time, in which Ecology was developing the project, still the ready-to-build stage, and then and only then UBS would enter as an investor into the projects, inject 100% of the equity required. Ecology would make a pre-agreed development fee for the development risk that it is taken. Then EPC management fees, asset management for 20 years, and some sweet equity. UBS was supposed to invest exclusively into our first Italian portfolio. But that basically was good at the time when Econergy we considered ourselves as a large developer and service provider. At the end of 2020, we've actually decided to make a transition in our strategy from being a large developer and service provider into becoming an IPP. The reason for that at the time was that we have recognized that despite the high cost of a ready-to-build project in the market, there is a good market for ready-to-build project. People are willing to pay a high price. Actually, the value generated from an operating plant, so once you've went through the construction and connected the project, is much larger than the value that you can get from an RTB project. And that basically made us decide we want to become an IPP and operate and hold our projects. And that was the main reason for us to go for an IPO in the Israeli market in 2021. So we've done an IPO on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange in mid of 2021. We have raised some money in equity, then in another approximately 100 million euros in convertible bonds in the Israeli market, and we became a listed company. Yeah.
So that is very interesting that you had that light bulb moment in sort of 2019, 2020. However, I'm listening to that and thinking, we were working with you during that time, but still you had to take a tremendous amount of risk, because when we were recruiting for you in 2019 and 2020, it was, we still need to build that development pipeline as quickly as we can so that we can ultimately become that IPP. It's interesting seeing the risk balance versus reward. It's also interesting to hear that you were involved in renewable energy before it became so fashionable, and before the boom came in 2019-20. So it's nice to hear that you didn't just enter. I think it's important for the listeners to understand that Econergy have been around for well over a decade.
Yeah. I think when we decided to become an IPP, the way we have decided to take it is basically becoming a local player in each one of the markets that we are operating in. So at that time, what we've seen in the market is that you normally had the local developers working in locally in specific markets, even in a specific region. Trying to make money from development and normally selling them on to larger players once the project is ready to build. And on the other side, you had the big players, strategic players, who normally were all over the place, not necessarily wanting to take some development risk, taking advantage of the low cost of funds in order to buy projects either ready to build or even operating projects, portfolios, etc. And that's where we decided that our advantage as a small IPP at the beginning would be our knowledge and expertise in the local markets, being local in each market, but being global in our management strategy.
Sitting back and listening to a business, a CEO and an owner, you talk about local markets, but you sat in Israel and you've literally you've developed markets in some really difficult jurisdictions. Romania, Poland, aren't as regulated as other countries. Even the UK, there's been so many challenges there. How do you sleep at night?
It's all about people, and business is all about people. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the team. And the fact that I had a good recruiter at the time of COVID. We've been successful and fortunate to hire. We understood from the start that hiring the best people we can in each one of the markets and building a strong team on the ground will make us be completely local. I mean, the aim was to be 100% local. If you look at each one of the markets, Romania, Poland, we have, besides country manager, engineers, land managers, project management people, finance and everything. We are really local company with local expertise in each one of the markets we're operating in. In some of the markets, by the way, we're also market leaders. If you take Romania, for example, I would dare to say that we are by far the largest developer and investor in the Romanian markets. All the big projects in Romania, either connected or under construction, are Econergy's, and you're doing it by being local.
Yeah, absolutely right. You mentioned the point about you're as good as the people that you bring into your business. Forget about the recruiter who brought them on. What I would say, and a lesson to others, is one thing about working with Econergy is, and other clients who have been successful, is your ability to make quick decisions. I'm sure with investments and also bringing people on board. But I think that's one thing from an outsider that really sets you apart. And I implored all my other clients or anyone else listening, take on Econergy's mantra of moving swiftly, making quick decisions, because that has ultimately, I'm sure, become part of your success. We've touched upon it, and I want to kind of look a bit further into it because it's around a recent announcement that Econergy made maybe a few weeks ago. It's phenomenally difficult to raise finance at the moment. We've seen it for the last 18 months. Funds are struggling, developers are struggling. It's difficult. It's a tougher climate. Interest rates are higher, etc. Econergy have always done so well, and therefore wanted to congratulate you on your recent £150 million investment from Rivage, or is it Rivage? What does that 150 million mean for the business?
Yeah, I think it relates directly to the transitioning strategy we've discussed before. So Econergy is, on the one side, it's a large developer, so we have a lot of projects. We have about 250 projects under development at the moment in the 6 markets we're operating in, more than 10 gigawatts. A lot of them are becoming ready to build and need to start construction. And obviously, it's you need the funds to construct them. So in order to become an IPP, we are we need constantly to raise funds. The fact that we're a listed company on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange helps. Obviously, we have good access to funds also on the Israeli market, and we've used that tool both on the equity side as well as on the bond side, which is a strong tool in the Israeli market. But we are, our main connections and markets are obviously the European markets. We are closely related to some larger strategic investors, financial investors, and I think we were quite fortunate in to come to an agreement with Rivage, our partner, the French one, on this recent 150 million euro corporate loan. The reason to raise a corporate loan is simple. I mean, Econergy is now on a I would call it a transition year in terms of where we've been 2023. And since we're a listed company, then I can talk about numbers. In 2023, we were making around 5, 6, or 6 million euro income revenues. In 2024, we expected to do over 120 million. So it's a quick and big change. And as an IPP was growing so fast, and as a controlling shareholder, normally you don't want to give away a large chunk of your business for valuation, in which you want to hold up to that. And basically, what we've done is raise this corporate finance, which is more similar to I would say preferred equity kind of structure, which allows us to grow in the next 2-3 years without raising substantial amounts of equity.
I mean, that growth in revenue is outstanding from 2023 to 2024. I can see why you've gone from developer to IPP. But I think it's important for people listening in to sit back and realize, this didn't come without blood, sweat, tears, decades of work, and taking huge amounts of risk. A brief interruption. At Infra-Be, we are more than just creators of the Infra Insider podcast. We're a distinguished team dedicated to the global infrastructure and renewable energy market. Our specialisation lies in offering comprehensive talent solutions to banks, equity providers, funds, sponsors, developers and contractors. We are the go-to experts for talent acquisition throughout the entire infrastructure and renewable energy lifecycle. To discover how we set ourselves apart in finding the absolute best talent in this sector, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us through the contact page on our website. Thanks for listening, and back to the podcast. You touched on it then, and I suppose some of the relationships that you've got in the market obviously give you that competitive advantage or make you stand out. Is there anything else that makes Ecology stand out in such a competitive market, aside from your relationships and the partnerships that you've created?
Well, I think it's what makes us, I think, different than most of the players on our size, IPPs on our size, which are still, small to medium-sized IPPs on growing, is that we are a very local player with local knowledge on the one hand, but with a very well-structured kind of global management on a matrix level, with a matrix kind of management. For example, the way we are managing the development locally, but if you take, for example, asset management, procurement, design, and EPC, everything is managed. For example, these are managed from the Milan office across the different markets. So you have, we enjoy the economies of scale. We enjoy different markets, cooperation, size, etc. And that basically gives us the advantage that a lot of other local IPPs do not have.
There's a strong machine in the background here that obviously you're constantly refining and building. And I'm assuming that's also a big reason why so many investors have found such great confidence But then again, you talk about the revenue increase from 2023 to 2024, and that very much so speaks for itself. I'm sure there's so many achievements, and I can think of so many in my mind that I can pick out from looking and working and viewing with Econergy. I just want to ask you, you might think this is a bit of an awkward question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you think your, let's say, two biggest achievements are?
I would mention, for example, Romania. I think we've recognized at the right time in about 2018, on beginning of 19, and we were quite the market. We were quite early comers, so we've managed to to build a very strong team, headed by Bogdan, who is our country manager. He spent many years at NL in Romania and other European markets, and basically start developing on a large scale. And today, 2-3 months ago, we've actually connected our first project, which is Ratești, which is the largest project in Romania, 155 megawatt of PV. We are in the next couple of weeks, we are connecting the second project, which is actually the second largest project in Romania, Parau, with a 92 megawatt. And we have a few hundred megawatt under construction and many more starting construction 2024. We've also been able to secure financing for Ratești from Raiffeisen Bank, the Austrian bank, which is actually the first project finance transaction in Romania, which is on a merchant basis without a PPA. So for the moment, we have not secured the PPA for Ratești, but despite that, we've managed to close a good project finance with Raiffeisen, about 60%. So we've announced this 60 million euros financing. So that was a nice achievement. The other achievement that I could mention is I think the creative.
By the way, that is some achievement. By the way, that is really quite quite an achievement.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that the other achievement that I'm proud of is the JV agreements that we have created with two strategic partners of Econergy. One is Rgreen Invest, who is a French fund, who has been a good partner of Econergy since 2016. I think they've invested in everything we've done in Italy since 2016, and the other one is Phoenix, the largest insurance company in Israel. And with both of them, we have created a tool, a kind of a JV, that each one of them has invested around 150 million euros in Econergy's on asset levels in Romania, Poland, and other markets in specific projects, in a way that would enable us both to reduce our equity needs in the short term, since Econergy is still a small IPP and we have huge amounts of funds needed. So they have entered between 49 to 50% on the equity side. We still retain control and management of the projects. We've been able to get also a kind of a bridge loan from them as part of the transaction, a 50% bridge loan, for example, from Rgreen, that enables us to start construction of the project without the necessarily need to close project finance, because it takes time. So we are able to take the bridge loan, start construction, and later on replace it with project finance. And then also, get the other revenues as development fee, asset management fee, etc. So it was basically a very strong tool and a very good partnership with those two players that enable us both to start construction quickly without the need to project finance, as well as reduce the equity needs of the company in the short term.
I mean, that's very, very clever. As we're talking through, we're talking about, all the achievements and all the successes, and as you're talking about them, there's so many complexities that lie behind that. And I'm imagining there was probably lots and lots of moments where you were pulling your hair out. But obviously we're talking about, and all we can see is a success. But there must have been some challenges. And with challenges, there were probably opportunities. Could you share some insights into some of those unique challenges and of course some of those opportunities over the last 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of challenges, look, I mean, the European market is, I would say, is quite competitive, as you know. So you have, the markets like, I don't know, Germany, France, some other strong economies, let's say, which are normally they have low margins, lower returns that investors are expecting to see and looking for. And Ecology is not a player in these kind of markets. We are not a player with an institutional large player with a low cost of funds that can be happy maybe with a 6-7% of IRR. This is not our DNA. So on the one hand, we are not a player in these very strong economies, but on the other hand, you want to become and grow to becoming a large IPP and to have strategic investors, strategic partners, large institutional European funds, which are normally not very happy if you go to non-OECD countries and these kind of markets. So you need to find your way, and this is not easy. You need to find a way to navigate cleverly between different markets / opportunities, special situations, start development. And that's why one of the reasons we are a developer. So, go through all the chains from greenfield development into ready to build, construction, holding the projects, and in order to maximize the profit that you can make on the projects. So these were the challenges we're still facing with, hopefully as successful as we can. In terms of opportunities, again, I think that it's about, in my opinion, it's about having both advantages of us being local with its own advantages and taking advantage of the global management, and combining the two is the only way in which we can basically tackle some opportunities and make the returns we are looking for and our investors are looking for.
Fantastic. And that kind of, led me on to what I was thinking about asking you for the next question, but you gave a very, very comprehensive answer. It was very much so I wanted to kind of understand, what Econergy's sort of long-term aspirations are. Where do you see the business in, let's say, 2030?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. The strategy of Econergy is definitely to become a large IPP. I think in the last 2 years, besides allowing for immediate growth of getting projects ready to build, constructed, etc., we are working quite intensively on building the infrastructure on company level, managerial level, also system level. I mean, the way we are running our own business, that's looking forward, let's say 5 to 7 years forward, and making sure that while we get there, we will be able to sustain. We'll be able to manage to be managed as a large IPP. And this is one of the challenges that we are facing. And I think this is we're spending a lot of time on that. So yeah, I mean, looking into entering new markets in Europe, still main focus is the European markets. But we're also looking to enter some other markets. So we're also looking across the Atlantic, but waiting for the right moment to do so. Yeah. We are very busy, obviously, with our European markets at the moment.
And that's good to hear that you haven't spread yourself too thinly. You've gone into each region and you've gone in seriously. And when I say seriously, you've gone in with a strong team, with strong investment, and you've dug your heels in until there's been movement, until there's been a success. And you can clearly see, that you're passionate about the business. I think it's quite unique for a business of your level to still be speaking with the co-founder. You're still so vested into the business, and that's so refreshing. Infra-Be are obviously focused on recruitment. We're focused on people. It's about the people journey. I've loved speaking today, but before we go, I want to ask you, one final thing, which I think hopefully a lot of our listeners will be interested to understand. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs like yourself? And you started out as an entrepreneur, looking to enter into the renewable energy industry. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, difficult one. I would say that the most important thing, it's, the renewable energy market, especially the European one, is a very competitive one, dominated by large players. But if you want, but the way to be successful is being local and focus and have the right knowledge, expertise, reputation in whatever you do. So, if I would need to start again as an entrepreneur, I think the most important lesson that I got is, try to focus, especially when you're starting the business. Try to focus on a specific market, focus on specific technology, make yourself expert in order to find the right opportunities, and let other people, the big ones, the big strategic investors and others, count on you to execute and to bring them the right opportunities. That would be my advice.
Fantastic. That is great advice indeed. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you today. I know that our listeners will really enjoy this. I've learned quite a lot actually about Econergy. There's things that, obviously working with you, even I didn't know. So, it's just really refreshing, and I really appreciate the time today. We talked about, Econergy building and growing quickly. And what I'd also say is, a message outside. I'm sure you'd be interested to hear from others in the renewable energy industry, both investors, developers, and maybe even other IPPs. But if you did want to reach out, as you can see from our conversation today, Eyal's very open, friendly, yeah, again, appreciate your time.
Great, Daniel. Thank you very much for your time and for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.